Imagine a bright, sunny morning. The air buzzed with excitement. It was field trip day. All the kids at Meadowbrook Elementary were piling onto the big yellow school bus. Today, they were going to the zoo to see the monkeys and the lions. Everyone chattered and laughed, eager for a fun day outside of school. Behind the wheels sat Miguel, the bus driver. He had a warm smile and always made sure the kids were safe and happy. Miguel was from Peru, a country far away, but he loved driving the kids to school and on their special trips. He waved to Mrs. Davis, the teacher, and with a gentle rumble, the bus started its journey, carrying dreams of playful animals and exciting adventures. Little did they know, this fun day was about to take a very scary turn. The bus had only gone a few blocks when flashing lights appeared behind them. Miguel carefully pulled over to the side of the road. Two dark SUVs blocked the bus, and serious-looking people in jackets with ICE printed on the back stepped out. The children, who were just singing a song about monkeys, stopped and stared with wide eyes. Mrs. Davis frowned, wondering what was happening. An ICE agent climbed onto the bus, his face stern. "We need to speak with the driver," he announced, his voice loud enough to make some of the younger children jump. The happy chatter was replaced by a nervous silence. Something was definitely wrong. The fun school trip had suddenly stopped, replaced by fear and confusion. The ICE agent walked directly to Miguel. "Sir, can you step outside? We need to ask you a few questions." Miguel looked surprised, but nodded slowly. He turned off the bus engine and stood up, his hands trembling slightly. He didn't understand what was happening. As Miguel stepped off the bus, the agent asked, "Do you have your papers with you?" Miguel reached into his wallet and pulled out his green card. He held it out to the agent, explaining, "I have a green card. I'm allowed to be here." The children watched from the bus windows, their faces pressed against the glass. They saw the agent looking closely at the green card, his expression unreadable. What were they asking Miguel? And why? Miguel held the small, green card out, his hand shaking slightly. "This shows I can live and work here legally," he said, his voice a little louder now, hoping the children inside could hear him. He had worked hard to get his green card and followed all the rules. He was a good person, a hard worker, and he loved his job. Mrs. Davis got off the bus, concern etched on her face. She walked over to the agent. "Officer, is there a problem? He has a valid green card." She had seen Miguel's green card before and knew it was real. She couldn't understand why they were questioning him. The air grew thick with worry. The ICE agent looked at Mrs. Davis. "We understand he has a green card, ma'am," he said, his voice firm. "However, we have reason to believe his documentation is currently under review. He needs to come with us for further questioning." "Under review?" Miguel repeated, his voice filled with confusion and disbelief. "But I did everything right. I waited years. What does under review mean?" He felt a knot forming in his stomach. He looked back at the bus, his eyes meeting the worried faces of the children. He saw little Sophia, who always gave him a drawing every Friday, and 10-year-old David, who sat right behind him, always asking about Peru. What would happen to them? What would happen to him? "I can't just leave these children," Miguel pleaded, gesturing toward the bus. "They need to get to the zoo. I'm their driver." The agent remained unmoved. "We'll arrange for someone else to take them," he said. "You need to come with us now, sir." He reached out and gently but firmly took Miguel's arm. Panic surged through Miguel. He knew he had to comply, but the thought of leaving the children, especially his own son, Carlos, who was sitting near the front, filled him with dread. He glanced at Mrs. Davis, his eyes pleading for help. But there was nothing she could do. The ICE agents were in charge. The fun field trip had turned into a nightmare. As the agent led Miguel toward the SUV, the bus erupted in cries. "Mr. Miguel! Mr. Miguel, don't go!" Little hands reached out, tried to grab his shirt. Tears streamed down the faces of the children who had come to see him as a friend. Carlos, Miguel's son, jumped out of his seat and ran to the front of the bus. "Papa! Papa! Where are you going?" he cried, his voice choked with sobs. He pushed past the other children, desperate to reach his father. Miguel's heart broke. He wanted to hug Carlos, to tell him everything would be okay, but he couldn't. The agent gently steered him away. The image of his son's tear-stained face would forever be etched in his memory. This was a scene no child should ever have to witness. Tears flowed freely. Some children buried their faces in their hands, sobbing uncontrollably. Others stared out the window, their eyes wide with disbelief. "Why are they taking Mr. Miguel?" a little girl asked, her voice trembling. "He's so nice." Carlos clung to Mrs. Davis, his small body shaking. "He didn't do anything wrong. Please, Mrs. Davis, make them bring him back." He looked up at her with pleading eyes, desperate for reassurance. Mrs. Davis hugged him tightly, but she didn't know what to say. She felt helpless, watching the children's innocence shattered by this sudden and frightening event. The zoo trip was forgotten. Their only thought was for Mr. Miguel. Some parents who were chaperoning the trip started to record the scene on their phones. "This is wrong. He has a green card," one mother shouted, her voice shaking with anger. "You can't just take him away like this, in front of the children." Another parent stepped forward, trying to reason with the ICE agents. "Officer, can you please explain why you're doing this? He's a valued member of our community. Is there something we can do to help?" They hoped that by documenting the event, they could bring attention to Miguel's case and prevent him from being unfairly detained. They knew they had to do something, anything, to help their children's beloved bus driver. The air was thick with tension and disbelief. A new driver arrived, but the atmosphere on the bus was completely different. The joyful chatter had vanished, replaced by a heavy silence. The children stared out the windows, their faces somber. The zoo was the last thing on their minds. Carlos sat quietly, tears still streaming down his face. He clutched a small, worn teddy bear, his only comfort. Mrs. Davis tried to reassure the children, but her words felt hollow, even to her. They were going back to school, but the fun-filled trip they had anticipated was gone, replaced by a deep sadness and a lingering fear of the unknown. What would happen to Mr. Miguel? Would they ever see him again? The bus ride was a stark reminder of the day's unexpected and heartbreaking turn. News of what happened on the field trip spread quickly through Meadowbrook. Parents were outraged. They couldn't believe that Miguel, such a kind and dedicated member of their community, had been treated this way. Immediately, they started organizing. They set up a fundraising page to help Miguel's family with legal expenses. They contacted lawyers who specialized in immigration law. They wrote letters to their local representatives, demanding answers. They even organized a community meeting to discuss how they could best support Miguel and his family during this difficult time. Everyone agreed. They needed to stand together and fight for Miguel's rights. He was one of their own, and they wouldn't let him down. A green card is like a special permission slip that the government gives to people from other countries who want to live and work in the United States. It means they're allowed to be here legally, just like citizens. With a green card, people can get a job, go to school, and travel in and out of the country. They also have to follow the laws, just like everyone else. It's a big step towards becoming a citizen, and it shows that the person has worked hard to earn the right to live in America. So, when Miguel showed his green card, he was showing proof that he was allowed to be here. That's why everyone was so surprised and upset when the ICE agent said it was under review. ICE, which stands for Immigration and Customs Enforcement, is a government agency that is in charge of making sure people follow the immigration laws of the United States. These laws are like rules about who can come into the country, how long they can stay, and what they need to do to become citizens. ICE agents have the important job of enforcing these laws. However, they also have to follow rules about how they do their job. They can't just stop anyone they want. They need a good reason to question someone or take them into custody. And they always need to treat people with respect, even when they are enforcing the law. That's why many people were concerned about how Miguel was treated, especially in front of the children. With the help of the community, Miguel's family hired a lawyer who knew a lot about immigration law. The lawyer immediately started working to get Miguel released from detention. She gathered all the documents related to Miguel's green card application, showing that he had followed every step correctly and that his green card was indeed valid. The lawyer also argued that Miguel was not a threat to anyone and that he was a valuable member of the community. She presented letters from parents, teachers, and neighbors, all attesting to Miguel's good character. The legal battle had begun, and Miguel's family and the community were determined to fight for his freedom. They believed in him, and they knew he deserved to be home with his family. Miguel was known throughout Meadowbrook as a hard worker. He always arrived early for his bus route and made sure every child felt safe and comfortable. He volunteered at the local soup kitchen on weekends and helped coach Carlos' soccer team. He loved his family more than anything. He worked tirelessly to provide for them, always putting their needs first. He read Carlos bedtime stories every night and helped him with his homework. He cherished every moment he spent with his wife, Elena, and they often took walks in the park together. Miguel was the kind of person who always had a smile on his face and was always willing to lend a helping hand. He was a true pillar of the community. The days that followed were filled with worry and uncertainty. Miguel's family missed him terribly. Carlos couldn't sleep without his father's bedtime stories, and Elena struggled to manage everything on her own. They visited Miguel as often as they could, but the visits were short and difficult. The legal process was slow, and it was hard to know what was happening behind the scenes. The family waited anxiously for news, hoping for a positive outcome. The waiting was the hardest part. Every phone call, every knock on the door brought a mix of hope and fear. They knew Miguel's future, and their own, hung in the balance. The community continued to offer support, but nothing could ease the pain of Miguel's absence and the uncertainty of what was to come. To raise awareness about Miguel's case and to show their support, the community organized peaceful protests. People gathered in front of the ICE office, holding signs that read, "Bring Miguel home," and "Justice for Miguel." Even the children from Meadowbrook Elementary participated, holding handmade signs with messages like, "Mr. Miguel is our friend," and "Let Miguel stay." The protests were peaceful and respectful, but they were a powerful way for the community to show that they stood with Miguel and his family. They wanted to make sure that everyone knew Miguel was a valued member of their community and that they would not give up fighting for his release. The protests were a symbol of hope and a testament to the community's unwavering support. Talking about immigration can be tricky, but it's important to help kids understand what's happening in the world around them. When talking about Miguel's situation, focus on fairness and kindness. Explain that everyone deserves to be treated with respect, no matter where they come from. You can explain that some people come to the United States to find a better life, just like Miguel did. Emphasize that it's important to be welcoming and understanding towards newcomers. Remind them that judging people based on where they were born is never fair. Encourage them to ask questions and to always treat others the way they want to be treated. It's also good to remind them that laws are complex and that even adults don't always agree on them. Finally, the day arrived when the judge made a decision. The courtroom was packed with supporters, all holding their breath. Miguel's family sat in the front row, their faces etched with anxiety. The judge listened carefully to all the evidence presented by Miguel's lawyer. She considered the letters from the community, the proof of Miguel's hard work, and the validity of his green card. After a long silence, she announced her decision. Miguel's green card was indeed valid, and there was no reason for him to be detained. He was free to go home. A collective sigh of relief swept through the courtroom, followed by cheers and applause. The community's fight had paid off. The moment Miguel walked out of the courthouse, he was greeted by cheers and hugs. Carlos ran to him, jumping into his arms. "Papa, Papa, you're home," he cried, tears of joy streaming down his face. Elena embraced Miguel tightly, whispering, "I missed you so much." The community celebrated Miguel's return with a big party. There was music, food, and lots of laughter. Miguel was overwhelmed by the outpouring of love and support. He knew he was lucky to have such a caring community. He promised to continue working hard and giving back to the town that had stood by him. Life in Meadowbrook could finally return to normal, filled with joy and gratitude. The zoo trip, though delayed, was eventually rescheduled, with Mr. Miguel at the wheel, of course. If, however, the judge had ruled against Miguel, the story would have been very different. Deportation would have meant Miguel being forced to leave his family and return to Peru. The sadness and challenges for Elena and Carlos would have been immense. Elena would have struggled to support Carlos on her own, and Carlos would have missed his father terribly. The community support would have been even more crucial. helping Elena with finances, childcare, and emotional support. Even though Miguel would be far away, it would have been important to keep his memory alive and to continue fighting for his return. This alternate ending would serve as a reminder of the importance of empathy and continued support for families facing deportation. Miguel's story, whether it ended in joy or sorrow, teaches us a valuable lesson about empathy. Empathy means trying to understand how someone else feels, even if you don't agree with them or come from the same background. Immigrants like Miguel often face many challenges, leaving their homes and families to build a new life in a new country. They deserve our respect and understanding. By putting ourselves in their shoes, we can learn to appreciate their contributions to our communities and to treat them with the kindness and compassion they deserve. Remember, everyone has a story, and everyone deserves to be treated with dignity. Empathy helps us build a more welcoming and understanding world for all. The people of Meadowbrook showed us the importance of standing up for what's right, even when it's difficult. It can be scary to speak out against injustice, but it's important to remember that even small actions can make a big difference. Whether it's signing a petition, writing a letter to a government official, or simply offering support to someone in need, every act of kindness and advocacy can help create a more just and equitable world. Standing up for what's right might not always be easy, but it's always the right thing to do. Remember the parents who filmed the event. They knew it was important to document what was happening, even if it was uncomfortable. That's courage. Miguel's story is just one example of how immigration policies can impact families and communities. It reminds us that immigration is not just about laws and borders. It's about real people with real lives and real dreams. The decisions made by lawmakers can have a profound effect on families like Miguel's, determining whether they can stay together or whether they will be separated. It's important to understand these policies and to think about how they affect our neighbors, our friends, and our communities. By understanding the bigger picture, we can work towards creating immigration policies that are fair, just, and compassionate. It's important to remember the children who witnessed Miguel's arrest on the school bus. Seeing someone they cared about being taken away like that can be very scary and confusing. They may have questions and fears that they don't know how to express. It's important for parents, teachers, and other adults to provide them with a safe space to talk about their feelings. Let them know that it's okay to be sad, angry, or confused. Offer them reassurance and support. Remind them that even though bad things happen, there are always people who care about them and who will stand up for what's right. Helping children process their emotions is crucial for their well-being. Miguel's story is a call to action. It's a reminder that we all have a role to play in creating a more just and welcoming society. Take the time to learn more about immigration issues. Read books, watch documentaries, and listen to the stories of immigrants in your community. Get involved in local organizations that support immigrants and advocate for fair immigration policies. Speak out against injustice and discrimination. Even small actions can make a big difference. By working together, we can build a world where everyone is treated with dignity and respect, regardless of where they come from. Let Miguel's story inspire you to make a positive change in your community and in the world.